Avengers assemble again in Avengers Age of Ultron when director Joss Whedon back at the helm. From the very beginning, the team springs into action going after Barrett von Strucker, who has Loki's scepter. The first shot of them is very ambitious, complete with a slow-mo group shot, giving you an idea of what this movie would be like. We also get new characters, Pedro and Wanda Maximoff, aka Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, played by Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen. When Tony goes to get Loki's scepter, Scarlet Witch uses her powers to put a vision in Tony's head of a future where his team members have fallen. Fearing the worst, Tony decides to go through with this idea he had of a program to protect the world called Ultron, with the help of Bruce Banner and the power from Loki's scepter. Logical? But when Ultron wakes up in the internet, he gets the wrong message after going through some research of world history. He sets out to wipe away humanity with the help of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, who have a personal vendetta against Tony after they lost their parents when weapons made by Tony were dropped on them. As you would have guessed, it is up to Earth's mightiest heroes to stop Ultron while the movie itself attempts to balance a lot of things. As you can see, I'm wearing the shirt that says Team Whedon on it. It's because I am a huge Joss Whedon fan, or Whedonite. I love the first Avengers movie. It is my favorite comic book movie of all time. Yes, those were excellent movies too. In fact, Logan has an emotional resonance that I think is unparalleled in other comic book movies. But with the Avengers, everything from the action to the humor to the characters was so entertaining. So you can imagine that I was very excited for this movie, especially Joss Whedon coming back to write and direct it. And how was it? Well, I liked it, while others not so much. Let's start with positives. Along with our heroes back in action, we also get those one-liners back too. Like at the beginning, Tony says after hearing a force field, and Cap says, "Language." I'm sure people would react the same way Tony did, but I found it very funny. There were also some highly amusing scenes involving Thor's hammer, particularly one when the gang tries to lift it. When Cap tries to lift it, the hammer budges an inch, which really worries Thor, but then, as he puts it, ha ha ha, nothing. They even bring up this question of whether or not an elevator can carry it. Cap says, "Elevator's not worthy." But I don't know, a code hook was able to carry it in Thor the Dark World, so I think it wouldn't be any different. Hawkeye has a more prominent role, allowing him to be himself from beginning to end, and not get brainwashed like in the first movie. Not only that, the movie reveals that he actually has a wife and kids, which I found to be a very pleasant surprise. As for the new characters, Scarlet Witch stands out in how she uses her powers to tap into the heads of our heroes and see their fears. She is later given decent development when she decides to help everyone after this scene when Hawkeye gives her a choice. Paul Bettany makes a great transition from voicing Jarvis to playing the Vision in a performance that is very intriguing and very well done. On top of that, he is able to lift Thor's hammer, and the reactions from everyone was priceless. The action scenes, while not exciting as the first one, are pretty sufficient. The best one being the fight between a brainwashed Hulk and Tony in the Hulkbuster, which included a couple of hilarious moments, like Tony battering the Hulk and saying, "Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep." And another moment where Tony punches the Hulk, and the Hulk spits out a tooth and gives Tony this "you're dead to me" glare. And Tony, knowing he's in deep, says, "I'm sorry." Now let's talk about the flaws and how people reacted to some major things in the film. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I'll show you a clip that sums up how they felt about Joss's effort.
You have failed, and you must die.
In case you're unaware, they didn't react kindly to how he wrote Black Widow in this movie. He had her attracted to Bruce Banner, reveals she got sterilized when she was training to be an assassin, and even gets captured. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't have problems with that, but only in a couple of areas. Firstly, I'm not very fond of that Brutasha pairing. I just honestly didn't get it, and their scenes play like awkward fanfic. But with that said, I tried to be open to it, but overall, not a fan. However, if you ship them, then you have my complete respect. As for the other points, when Natasha reveals she got sterilized to Bruce, she says, "You think you're the only monster on this team?" Now, people thought that Josh was sending this disrespectful message that all women who can't conceive are monsters. But I don't know. I have my doubts about that. In fact, when someone asked Josh on his Tumblr blog why he did this, he had this to say. She said she was a monster because she was an assassin. Being rendered infertile made her feel unnatural, made her feel cut off from the natural world. But it was her actions that defined her murdery actions. That's what monster meant. I very much agree with this, and here's something that many people overlooked. Tony and Vision also referred themselves as monsters too, but with different meanings. So I find it hard to believe when people say it is incredibly sexist. As for getting captured, Black Widow didn't just wait around to get saved, she actually sends a signal to her team members to give her location and where Ultron is. And here is a quote from Scarlett Johansson about working on this movie, for those of you who still think she was a victim of Joss's, quote, misogyny, unquote. I had a lot of conversations with Joss about what she sees in Banner, or why is she, at this point in her life, able to be open in this way. We both followed that storyline with a lot of confidence that it was the right arc for my character up until that point. You know, I'm happy that people scrutinize the Widow storylines and care about it and are invested. I much rather it be like that than have a kind of meh reaction. For me to have people say that would be ouch, you know? Everything that I've done with the Widow to me makes sense. It's in line with active decisions that I made for the character. I've been able to develop this character very closely with Joss and Civil War directors Joe and Anthony Russo. Now, I'm certain you want to stick to your big ideas and distorted facts, but these sources tell me that Joss wasn't impertinent to Miss Johansson. In the hammer lifting scene, when everyone looked at Black Widow, she said, "Oh no, that's not a question I need answering." You see, she knows her value, like Peggy Carter, who by the way has a cameo in this film. So on the Black Widow scoreboard, Joss gets half a point, losing the other half for that ship. But the Brutasha ship isn't the only problem. Quicksilver feels a bit weak, coming off the heels of the one from X-Men Days of Future Past. The major difference with this one is that he's Romanian, but he's a rebel like the other one. As far as I'm concerned, the X-Men version is still the best one. Another problem lies in the villain Ultron. Judging from the trailers, it looked like Ultron would be this very intimidating and powerful threat. I even got chills when he recites that Pinocchio song. There are no strings on me. But unfortunately, Ultron is portrayed a lot differently in the movie than in the trailers. He is mostly egotistical, petty, and makes a bunch of quippy remarks. And I know people would say that he was created by Tony Stark, so of course he would act like this. Duh. Yeah, but I was hoping for someone distinct and unique. But with that said, I thought James Spader was a very good choice for the role, and he provides some decent voice work. He even had a few good lines, like when Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch first encounter him, and Scarlet Witch says she didn't expect to see Tony's fear take form. Ultron responds, "Everyone creates a thing they dread. Men of peace create engines of war. Invaders create Avengers. People create... Smaller people? Children. Lost the word there. Children. Designed to supplant them. To help them end. I even like a parallel in the scene where our heroes meet Hawkeye's family. When Hawkeye embraces his kids, Tony says, "These are smaller agents." And one more line I like from Ultron is when Tony asks him what he's going to do with vibranium. In keeping with Joss's trademark of bending tropes, Ultron answers, "I'm glad you asked that, because I like to take the time to explain my evil plan." And he zaps him instead. The movie tries to juggle the large cast and some setups for the future movies, but it doesn't really flow as well as the first movie. Thor has a vision of Asgard falling, and he goes to this magical well for answers. Marvel Studios pretty much forced Joss to include this scene, and they had to cut it down in a way that would deem suitable for the both of them. In fact, Loki was going to make a cameo in Thor's vision, but it didn't make it because of all the other things. Joss said that there wouldn't be an extended cut, and that he and the producers worked together to make a final cut that would please all of them. Ha! Take that, DCEU! Marvel wouldn't stoop to your level releasing your incoherent movies into theaters and giving more coherent extended versions just to make more money. So I'm really torn up about this. There are some things that are cool, but there are some things that don't really work. Most of the one-liners don't hit the mark like the majority from the first movie, but there are some good ones. Some of the characters are nicely fleshed out, but others not so much. I can certainly see why this movie was hard for Joss to make with such a high demand for bigger things. He got to go deeper with the characters, but the choices he makes kind of pale in comparison with the first film. Ultimately, I am willing to cut Joss some slack. I wish a lot of people would too. My main point is, if any of you didn't like this movie, that's fine. I can understand the problems you have with it. But to threaten Joss in a hostile manner is not okay. I'm positive many people would agree with me. And I'm very certain I'm not the only one who finds some value in it. I can name a couple of times the audience cheered when I saw it in the theater. One is when Samuel L. Jackson returns as Nick Fury. My favorite scene with him is when he comes to the rescue with a helicarrier and Cap says, "Fury, you SOB." Ironically, Fury responds, "Whoa, you get your mother with that mouth?" Look who's talking. And the last instance is when the Avengers are fighting Ultron's drones in this very dense but exciting 360 shot. But if there's absolutely anything Joss did that really frustrated me, it's at the end when Cap looks at a new team up with War Machine, Vision, Falcon, and Scarlet Witch. Cap says, "Avengers?" And you think, oh, he's gonna say it! But just as he's about to say the last part, it cuts to the end credits. Waiting. But I digress. With all that said, am I sad that Joss is not directing Avengers Infinity War? Not really. It's probably for the best since this movie was very hard to make and he shouldn't push himself any further. Unlike most people, I haven't forgotten how excellent a job he did with the first Avengers movie. Say what you will about how he writes Black Widow, but she wouldn't be the character we know and love if it hadn't been for him. And don't get me wrong, I love the Russo brothers too. Anyone on Team Russo has my respect. And I can definitely say that Earth's mightiest heroes are in very good hands at the moment. In the meantime, I'm giving Avengers Age of Ultron my semi-approval. Despite this movie, Joss is still boss in my opinion. In fact, I actually got to meet him last year. He was in Austin, Texas, close to where I live, to promote this EP he worked on with this local song artist named Shawnee Kilgore. Joss was also going to introduce a screening of Serenity. I just knew I had to seize this opportunity. I bought the very last ticket to a Q&A by Joss and Shawnee. It was at the Alamo Drafthouse by South Lamar. When I got there he was in the flesh, and I was struck by this incredible sensation of anxiety and excitement. I tried my very best to keep on walking, but my legs were shaking quite a bit. As for the Q&A, it was always a pleasure hearing Joss talk about his creative process as well as make some funny quips. They even showed this music video of one of their songs, and it starred Richard Jenkins and Ashley Johnson. I'm sure you can find that. It's called Back to Eden. After that, there was a party at the bar next to the draft house called the Highball. When I walked in, I noticed a line of people waiting to meet Joss. I didn't really know if I should seize this opportunity, but I figured, yes, I need to. But the anxiety in me was building up the closer I got to Joss. When I was finally face to face with him, I blurted out, "Oh, Joss, meeting you is going to be the death of me." To which he responded, "Yay?" I'm pretty sure fans have said far weirder things to him. Anyway, I tried to tell him, how much his work meant to me, and I complimented the video, and I asked to take a picture with him. In fact, I can show you the picture. Look at that. You're looking at a man who is very nervous but very happy to be standing beside his hero. Even though 2016 may have been a terrible year for a lot of people, including me, this was a major highlight and one I'll probably never forget. And I also recommend that you listen to Joss and Shawnee's EP called Back to Eden. I'm pretty sure you can find it on iTunes. Anyway, that's all I have to say about Age of Ultron and just how much Joss means to me. Feel free to comment below on how you felt about Age of Ultron. But let me give you some words of wisdom from Elwood Blues. Try not to be so negative all the time. Why don't you offer a little constructive criticism?